All right, I think we're ready to get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Burgoyne, and I am the Chief Demographer at Claritas, joining you today from Tampa, Florida. As the program chair, I would like to welcome all of you to the first Applied Demography Conference hosted by the Population Association of America in conjunction with PAA's Committee on Applied Demography. I'd like to start by thanking everyone that served on the program committee, the members of the Committee on Applied Demography, and PAA's executive staff, particularly Danielle Stout. The two of us first discussed the idea for this conference at dinner 18 months ago, and so it's really exciting to see it come to life. I'm so grateful that technology allows this conference to be held virtually during these challenging times. The COVID-19 pandemic has had profound effects on the entire world and has personally impacted many of us on this call. The work done by applied demographers is top of mind amidst the pandemic. Deaths due to COVID-19, altered migration patterns, early predictions of a baby boom, followed by the reality of declining births and delayed pregnancies, the differential impact of COVID-19 due to demographic factors like health status, age, race, ethnicity, occupation and industry, and geographic location. As applied demographers, we're being asked to predict long-term demographic changes that we can't possibly know with any certainty because we're still living it. Over the next 3 days, we're going to hear presentations addressing the data available to assess such issues. Integral to these discussions is the 2020 census. In some ways, we're incredibly lucky that 2020 was a census year, so we'll soon have data that reflect the early impacts of COVID-19. Although I'm certain our colleagues at the Census Bureau can attest that conducting a census during a pandemic presents many challenges. We'll hear about some of these challenges over the course of the conference, as well as other census concerns like disclosure avoidance, differential privacy, executive orders, and a changing administration. The conference will also have presentations you would expect from any applied demography conference, like estimates, projections, fertility, aging, international migration, and methodological innovations. We're also happy to offer asynchronous presentations, which are our adaptation of poster sessions that you can access via the Expo button on the left-hand navigation of Hopin. I'd encourage all of you to visit the booths of interest, view the presentations, and leave feedback for the authors. And that's why you saw today that the conference opened up early on the software and will close late all of the days. We're also excited to be able to offer a more in-person style experience with a networking event this afternoon that'll be sort of like a coffee break meets happy hour meets speed dating, because the software will randomly pair you with another participant for a 3-minute conversation. You should have received an email from Danielle Stout with the details of how Hopin will facilitate the interactions. And as my last announcement, I'd like to encourage all of you to join PAA's Applied Demography group by adding the extra $5 to your annual PAA membership. I'd like for all of you to attend the Committee on Applied Demography business meeting on Thursday so you can learn more about the group and our involvement with PAA. I'm looking forward to the knowledge sharing and engaging discussions that will occur over the next 3 days. And at this time, it is my distinct honor to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Ron Jarmin, Acting Director of the United States Census Bureau. Jarmin is also currently the Deputy Director and Chief Operating Officer and has been since July of 2019. He performed the non-exclusive functions and duties of the Director from July 2017 to January of 2019, and previously served as the Associate Director for Economic Programs. He led the team for the 2017 economic census, overseeing a move to 100% internet data collection and leveraging enterprise investments to minimize system, application, and dissemination costs. Data products from the economic census provide the foundation for key measures of economic performance, including the nation's gross domestic product. From 2011 to 2016, Jarmin served as the Assistant Director for Research and Methodology. He oversaw a broad research program in statistics, survey methodology, and economics aimed at improving census and social measurement within the federal statistical system. improving economic measurement, not census measurement. Since the beginning of his career at the Census Bureau in 1992, he also served as the chief economist, the chief of the Center for Economic Studies, and a research economist. Jarmin holds a PhD in economics from the University of Oregon. An elected fellow of the American Statistical Association, he has published papers in the area of industrial organization, business dynamics, entrepreneurship, technology and firm performance, urban economics, data access, and statistical disclosure avoidance. And today, he's here to give us an update from the Census Bureau. So without further ado, Dr. Ron Jarmin.
Thank you, Sarah. So while I get my cameras working and everything here and get my talk loaded, I just like to say hello to sunny Florida from snowy DC, although we're not as snowy as some parts of the country. So, all right, so hopefully everyone can see my slides. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you all today. So I think this is what I hope to be, first of many more conversations with you all and with the public in the weeks and months to come about the 2020 census. And so obviously we've been somewhat restricted in what we can say about various things because of litigation and those sorts of things. I'm hoping that maybe soon we can be behind some of that stuff and be able to engage in these conversations more frequently and in a more robust way. So I just want to mention, this is just one thing that we're planning on doing. I was told just a little while ago that a blog from me just posted to the Census Bureau webpage, and you'll see that blog sort of mentions that several other blogs talking about various issues surrounding data quality for the 2020 census will be coming out by some of our expert SMEs. So hopefully you'll be reading lots about the census in the days and weeks to come. So let's talk. So Sarah mentioned, we had a crazy year to do a census, and I definitely would recommend to all my friends out there to not do a census during a global pandemic. It really was quite the challenge, and just unprecedented, challenges that we face, not just from the pandemic, which moved our schedule back into the heart of hurricane season, and we certainly had an active hurricane season. But not only that, we had wildfires out west, and of course civil unrest across the country, and many legal challenges as you saw in the newspapers, and all of these things caused real challenges for our field operations and required a lot of sort of game time decisions that we had to make in order to keep the census moving, but also keep our employees safe and the public safe as well. So we had to do a bunch of stuff, like I said, in order to promote health and safety of our employees and the public. We were following guidance from federal, state, and local authorities regarding how the pandemic was affecting different communities across the country differently at different times. But at the end of it, what we were all about all along was ensuring that we got a complete and accurate count of every community in the country. So, we fortunately, before the pandemic, we set up a pretty robust ability to sort of track what was going on around the country. We didn't do it because we thought there was going to be a pandemic, but we were anticipating various issues in the field, including natural disasters, but also things like misinformation and disinformation. And so we set up what we called the Fusion Center. It proved pretty valuable in providing sort of a hub of information for census senior managers to be able to sort of monitor what was going on and be able to sort of move resources around. And part of that was when we knew that we weren't going to get an extension in the timeline, we really needed to think about how we were going to get the work restarted and done as quickly as possible, and to have people out in the field in various parts of the country, when the pandemic was not hitting us hard, I grew up on a farm to, make hay while the sun shined, if you will. So we used a phase restart for all of our field operations that worked pretty smoothly, in retrospect. So we were happy about our ability to sort of, think on our feet and get the census done out in the field, given all the challenges. So, what did we get done? Well, 2 out of 3 households responded via one of the self-response options, whether that be the internet, the predominant form of self-response, or, traditional paper forms, or, a small amount over the phone. Very proud of the fact that our internet self-response option was up the entire, not just what we initially had planned for, but all the way through October with no downtime whatsoever. And I don't know how many of you followed, various dire predictions from people, leading up to the census, that this was going to be healthcare.gov and all that's all over again. We never really thought that was going to be the case, but I think that's anytime a government agency sets up a big website, someone's going to say healthcare.gov is going to happen. But also, not only did we, move the internet, move census responses onto the internet for households across the country, but increase use of technology by our folks out in the field, giving every enumerator in the country an iPhone, not only to take the interviews with, but to use route optimization, get their cases assigned to them, and then also to track their mileage and their hours. So the result of that was just a huge increase in field staff productivity. We achieved 1.92 cases per hour versus 1.05 cases per hour in the 2010 census. A big chunk of this is by the mere fact that when the enumerator gets ready to work, they look at their phone, they get their cases, and they go work those cases. They don't charge hours meeting with their crew leader at a Starbucks or a McDonald's every morning to get their paper assignments. So technology has allowed a much more efficient use of our folks' time. At the end of the addresses in the master address file, we were able to resolve over 99.9% of them. So on par with what we've done in previous censuses. Even with the challenges from the pandemic and the wildfires. Again, that probably would not have been possible without the increased productivity that was made possible by the increased use of technology. So, obviously one of the things that from the get-go that we were very concerned about the pandemic was, would it have any impact on the quality of the census? And so I think last April, I chartered what we call the Data Quality Executive Guidance Group. And this is a group that meets with various teams working on the census from that time and still until now, to talk about various issues regarding quality, the traditional types of things, but also things that were caused by COVID. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of this in depth here today. You can read some about it in my blog, but also in upcoming blogs. Some things that we've noticed, some of that I've mentioned before, a puzzling increase in item non-response on the census, that we'll be looking more into as we continue to process the census. But also some issues with group quarters enumeration. And obviously we had, to move a number of special operations like the homeless count and those sorts of things. So, I think we've, this group working with folks, I think we've got a good handle on most of those, on those issues. And we have, fixes in the works. And I think we're on track to, release a good quality product. But in addition to, sort of our internal work, we are working with a team of experts from the American Statistical Association. You may have saw they had a report about quality indicators that would be useful. So we're working with them on that. And members of JASON, which is a group of academics that consults with government agencies about big technical projects, often in sort of the defense and intelligence sectors. But we've used them a few times for a few things, and they're very good at sort of in a short amount of time. They're crazy smart people, looking at these big technical processes and procedures and sort of the decisions we made. So looking at it from that kind of perspective, not so much on pure data quality perspective that folks from ASA are looking at. So so just to kind of recap, where are we? Well, we've done all the steps in the census, except finishing up with the tabulation and releasing the results, and that's where we are right now. And so just to give you an update, so right now we plan to release the state apportionment counts by April 30th, which if you remember how things were working out last spring during the apportionment, that's when we had said we would need to be able to, when we requested an extension to the statutory deadline. So, but we're continuing to work on the redistricting data schedule. We should have some news for that in the next couple weeks. But we got to dot the I's and cross the T's on that. So the staff in Decennial working real hard to try to pin that down so we can start giving people some better sense of certainty as to when the redistricting data will come out. So Sarah mentioned the presidential executive orders and memos and that sort of thing. So right now we're implementing President Biden's executive order that he released on the 20th of January. So I think the key follow-ons from that is all of the 2020 data products, they will not include any information on citizenship or immigration status. We will continue to publish the CVAP data using the ACS, and we'll start to work with our friends at the voting section of the Department of Justice to make sure that the CVAP products meet their statistical needs, and if they have any needs for other information, we'll try to work with them as best we can to get that done. And all of the work on immigration status of population regarding the 2020 census, of course, was suspended prior to the transition on January 12th. So just to give you an update on where we are on disclosure avoidance for the 2020 census. So I think the DAS team is appreciative of a little extra time, but again, this will be the first census produced with this modernized protection system, and we're hoping that this will provide high quality data, but also take seriously our statutory obligation to protect the confidentiality of the information that we collect from respondents. So far we've released 4 sets of demonstration data. We plan to release another set prior to releasing actually 2, but one of them that we hope to get some feedback on with what we think would be the privacy loss budget that we need to shoot for the 2020 census data products. So it'll be the 2010 with what we anticipate to be the actual 2020 privacy loss budget and parameters. But we'll use that for any last feedback, and then right before we release the redistricting data, we'll release the 2010 data again with what we're actually going to use, so people can really see how that will all work out. So moving away from the 2020 census, which has been hogging all the news for the Census Bureau, just to let you know that the rest of the Census Bureau has been very busy as well and has done some truly amazing stuff over the last year to help our country, get our arms around how the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting our people and our economy. And so first and foremost, we developed in sort of rapid time 2 new pulse surveys, one on households and one on small businesses, that were weekly and still are weekly surveys, asking a bunch of questions that we developed in concert with other federal statistical agencies, other federal agencies, with the Federal Reserve Board, to really get at how the pandemic was impacting households and businesses. So really proud of the work that the teams did. Really proud of the collaboration with OMB and the other partners, and really proud that the public has really sort of taken a liking to these products. And so we hope to use this as a model in the future for other sort of disaster type events, that we do have this ability to stand up something quick to provide timely, relevant information to help folks really understand what's going on. But we also created a new interactive data hub called covid19.census.gov, where we've put all of the data that might be relevant for helping people understand the pandemic and maybe other disasters, and put that together in one place so that they don't have to go to various parts of the Census Bureau website to find things. And so get it all together so that the folks can consume the data much more easily and quickly. And then we developed a new model-based community resilience estimates that look at how various geographies are able to cope with disasters like hurricanes and floods or pandemics. And so really excited to have those estimates out there. And then one of the things that turned out to be some of the most curious results about the pandemic, we started releasing weekly business application data. So data that sort of previews potential business startup operations. And as you might predict, right when the pandemic hit, these data fell off the map. But then they show this huge, strong rebound, and we think that some of that has to do with folks inventing little businesses at home while they're teleworking. So some curious economic behavioral reactions to the pandemic that we still don't have a good sense on, but made possible by these really timely data. So just a quick update on ACS. So we just released the 5-year product. So the last data from the 2019 data year just came out. The pandemic has certainly had an impact on the ACS, as it has all of our household surveys, especially when we weren't doing in-person visits, and we've moved a lot of that to the phone. But also just our ability to use our National Processing Center at sort of full capacity, sending a reduced mailings and that sort of thing. So hopefully, as time moves on, we'll get back to sort of normal operations on the ACS and the household surveys. But I don't think we've seen too big of a hit because of these things, and obviously we'll keep looking at that going forward. But just a reminder that we got the ACS Data Users Conference coming up in May. So all the diehard ACS data users should, obviously it'll be virtual, and we'll look forward to hearing from all you during that as well. So then just, let me talk about a couple other data products that we've rolled out over the last couple of years, but maybe you haven't really heard about. So one of them, veteran employment outcomes. So both these things use administrative data, and so we worked with the Army to get information on folks when they're discharged from the Army, and then we link that to our labor force data that we have through the LEHD program that comes from the states. And we look at the labor market outcomes for folks that had careers in the Army. And so one of the ideas behind this data product is, so first of all, the Army would like to know this because they'd like to design programs and whatnot to help people transition into the private sector economy. But this is information that's directly relevant to households and individuals, maybe contemplating a career in the military. So, what this does is allow people to look at earnings, in pretty detailed way, 1, 5, and 10 years after they leave the Army. And so, one of the interesting things, some of this makes perfect sense, but what you do in the Army is a good indicator of how much money you're going to earn in the labor market afterwards. We see that the government is a really important employer of veterans, especially of higher paid veterans. And then there's just various sectors that veterans work more often in. So I think this is an example of something I'm trying to promote at the Census Bureau. We know that people are less likely to want to participate in our surveys. Part of that is because they don't see a personal value to them in doing so, and to the extent that we can find ways to produce data products, that have the census brand on them, that are useful to them. Hopefully that will help change that sort of calculation in their head about their willingness to participate in our surveys. So a very similar data product. This time, instead of Army veterans, it's recent graduates from colleges and universities, called post-secondary employment outcomes. Same kind of model. Look at earnings 1, 5, and 10 years after people graduate, and we do this by degree field, by campus. So I would just say that one of the key things about both the veterans employment outcomes and the post-secondary employment outcomes is that we are using sort of modern differential privacy here that allows us to produce this kind of granular data. So looking forward to getting more universities on board with this project. Right now we have several large state systems involved. So I think the universities like it, the students like it, and we like it. So it's something win-win-win for everybody. We'd like to expand this. So I just want to end with a little advertisement here about the National Advisory Committee. So with all that was going on with the census and the pandemic, and other things, the NAC, we got to a situation where we have too many vacancies, so we don't actually have a quorum for meetings right now. So later on this afternoon, I'm meeting with a few people to try to start. We have a few applications right now, but I think if you or somebody who might want to serve on the National Advisory Committee, I'd like to hear about that sooner as opposed to later, because we need to try to get some folks onboarded so we can meet the spring meeting timeframe. So appreciate any help that folks could do and trying to help us get the NAC stood back up. There's information about this on our webpage and that sort of stuff, but I might not answer all the emails in the first 10 minutes, but shoot me an email if you or somebody might want to be on it, and we'll try to see if we can make that happen. Looking for all sorts of different sorts of folks. Again, more information on the website. So with that, I will stop, and I'll stop sharing so I can see what's going on. And I think I'm available to take a couple questions if that's where we want to go.
Yes, I think there's one, Ron, from Bill O'Hare in the chat box, if you're able to see that.
So I think there's lots of work to be done on this sort of blended base idea. And I think right now, to some degree, the most work that we're doing on that is on the economic side, where we're using a combination of administrative data from places like the IRS, survey data that we do, but also we're starting to blend in information sort of directly from third-party sources in the private sector, and sort of blending that together to do the estimates. And so I think this is something that's got a lot of promise. And I think it's where we got to go. Again, I think one thing that we learned from the census and from all our survey work is that America resists measurement to some degree, and finding ways to simplify that and to use sources that are readily available to do as much of it as we can, so we can start to economize on our survey work and really use that in a targeted way where we really need to fill gaps or to provide some scientific validity to other non-designed data sources. So I think there's going to be lots of work on this over the years, and obviously we need partnerships with academia, with other data providers. Data access is going to be a huge issue going forward to be able to try to put these blended estimates together. But I think we've had some good luck so far on the business side, and hope to start trying to do some of that more on the household side as well. So to Rochelle's question, I think so, but I'm not the expert on that. There is that spot on the census webpage that talks about that sort of stuff. So we'll try to find out the answers to those questions, but I think it will be close to the full micro data set, but I'm not sure. So I don't want to say one way or the other. So let me jump to since I'm not the right person to ask on the DAS stuff. Ron, can you talk about any learnings from the modeled citizenship work? It's no longer. So I don't know if it led to wasted work or not. So I think that the team that did the modeling on the citizenship, kind of back to the point about blended estimates, I think they did some good work. I think in a different political environment, maybe that work could lead to, sort of a informed debate about immigration policies and whatnot. But I think right now things are just so contentious, that the debate is not a sort of data-driven debate. It's really more of a politically driven debate. And I think when it gets to that point, we would be happy to sit down with our colleagues at the Office of Immigration Statistics and think about how you try to improve their estimates. I think census could help them do that. But I don't think we're not at that point right now, and not where I would probably put my marginal modeling dollar in the near term. So, any other questions?
Yeah, Ron, I think there was one that you might have missed about response to the census. So you mentioned that 2/3 were self-response, and Jean would like to know a little bit more about the other third of households.
Yeah, so that's non-response follow-up. So that's people out knocking on doors. So that's what that is. So and some of that is some of those housing units are turned out to be vacants or things that aren't housing units. But for the populated ones, it's from non-response follow-up. So I don't know that's a good question about international college students. So I don't know if we know anything specifically about our difficulties counting college students, because that's one of the GQ issues that we've had. And it's not just a GQ issue, it's a housing unit issue as well in these college towns where people left. I mean, look, college towns are hard typically just because, students get counted both at home and on campus, or they get missed because they thought their mom was counting them, or their mom, that sort of thing. So, I don't know if we know anything specifically about international college students. That would be an interesting question. I guess we'd have to have some sort of administrative data and try to look in and see if they've exited the country or something like that. But so I was the proud parent of a graduating college senior last fall, and in my neighborhood, my friends are all college age age parents too, and I can tell you that despite our best efforts, we had a video, all sorts of stuff out there. There was a lot of confusion about how to count college kids, and so I think obviously we're doing our best to try to get them in the right spot now if we see them counted twice and that sort of thing. But it is a bit of an issue. So can I say anything about increased item non-response? Other than that, we're observing it. I don't think I have anything sage to say on that. And we're seeing it across all response modes. So this is not just a non-response follow. It's not just because I don't want to answer the person who's at my door wearing a mask. It's in all of the different response modes for self-response. And so it's an interesting phenomena that we're going to have to look into some more. So, okay, when do you expect the quality metrics to come out? So, about the time that the products that they're referring to, I think so. We plan to release state level quality indicators when we release the apportionment counts, and more granular ones when we release the redistricting data. So they really are designed to go along with the product that's being released. So proxy and administrative data use. So I don't have statistics on that handy right now, and we really won't have that accurately until we've processed the census unedited file, which we won't even start doing that till early March. I do know that we think we used administrative records a little less than we had anticipated. But I think proxies, that I don't have data on that. I do know that like at the end of every census non-response follow-up operation, we were getting answers from neighbors and postal workers and that sort of stuff. So Ron, how the NAC committee, then I guess I won't respond to Bill's question about the CSAC and the NAC. You can come to your own conclusions on that. So yes, we want to fill the vacancies on all of our advisory committees, and we're working on that right now. So. Anything else? All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come talk to everyone. I don't know about the ACS guidance for COVID-19. The 3 of the 5 mailings are just the mailings we send out to households. So, what surprised me most about the 2020 census? Well, I guess I have to say I have a very provincial surprise. We were throwing a lot of curveballs, and the Census Bureau, I have pretty good faith in the Census Bureau, but even I was surprised by how amazing our team is and how we were able to sort of roll with the punches. And so, if you see folks that work not just on the decennial, all across the agency, and I think the other stat agencies performed admirably as well. We did all sorts of things changed in this, and so it was just amazing to see how people responded to that, and it was just it was just great to see. So very, very proud of how everybody responded. So I right now I don't know what the plan is on ACS on differential privacy. So let us get through the census, and then we'll figure that out. But right now, I don't think there's any real work being done in that space. So, all right. Well, so I don't know if you can hear it, but my cat really wants to come in the door here, and I need to go get ready for my next meeting. But I really appreciate the chance to come here and talk to you all, and hope you all have a great rest of the meeting. So
yeah, thank you so much, Ron, for speaking to us. We really appreciate it. I would also just like to remind everyone the next session starts at 1:30, so there's time for a break, get something to drink, check your email, and enter your next session. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Yes. Take care.
Bye.